first ones on the top of my head are Mario, of course, Mario World, Mario 3, and the new Super Mario Bros. On the DS. Currently, I'm playing a lot of Meat Boy, Super Meat Boy, and it's just really a fun game. I just can't believe how much time it sucked out of my life recently. And also a lot of the old NES and SNES games. Batman on the NES is among my favorites. And there was another one, Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure, which it was a good game. I enjoyed it a lot back then, but visuals alone made it just phenomenal. I think it's one of the most gorgeous Super Nintendo games there was, or at least as my memory has it. Well, I guess it's probably the most inspired game in history, really. And if you watch the trailers, you can see just how much influence there is in there. Definitely influenced by Grand Theft Auto. The first ones, the top-down ones, I absolutely loved. And then, of course, 3 and Vice City were phenomenal. And I enjoyed the other ones after that, but I think Vice City really was the peak of those games. And yeah, I used to play GTA 2 every night for at least a year, and I even played it a bit after GTA 3 came out, a fair bit. So, loved those games a lot. And as for the art style, I looked a lot at top-down games, driving games particularly. A lot of them, the 8-bit ones on the NES and the Game Boy Color. The Game Boy Color GTA games, actually, I looked at a fair bit too. They looked pretty good, but they didn't play well, and so I looked at a lot of their flaws and made sure to go in the other direction and right the wrongs that those games did. And it also helped me solidify the art direction, which was not to just show a flat top-down perspective where you're just seeing roads and roofs, and instead show more of a link to the past perspective where you can see the front of the buildings, and that allowed the character of the city to show through. And in fact, the city in itself is one of the biggest characters of the game. Well, a lot of designers I've talked to have different opinions, but my main ones are just to, one, focus on fun, and the other side is to keep it intuitive and avoid anything that seems tedious. So that particularly means avoiding grinding, like in GTA, where you're just driving for over and over for who knows how long just to get from A to B. And just keeping it just feel fluid and intuitive and a smooth experience. And so that means tight controls, guiding the player with arrows or whatever so they're never stuck or lost. And I focus on gameplay over the story. Even though I did write a big long story for the game, gameplay comes first, and the advantage to having such a wacky comedy of a story is that I can fairly easily craft missions into the story. Definitely it hits nostalgia like nothing else, and it's yeah, and the comedy of it, the mashup, it really does take mashing up other concepts into one to a level no one else has dared to do yet. And yeah, I mean, it's the most ambitious retro style title that's ever been done for sure as well. So I'm mostly self-taught. I was lucky enough when I was really young to know what I wanted to do. So every waking moment growing up, I pretty much spent at the computer or at a piece of paper drawing. Art and programming were two things that I really loved. I actually thought I was going to be a game artist when I was young, but unable to find a programmer, I figured out how to do programming too. I took some part-time courses when I was 14 at the BC Institute of Technology, but shortly after that, I just kept plugging away at home and was able to get in the industry through that. Knowing everything that I know has been vital and helped me a lot because, for example, since I've done most of the art in the game, I know art. And when finding contractors, it's very vital because I'm able to tell if a contractor is trying to overcharge me or whatever, overestimate things like that. Since I know firsthand how long stuff takes, I'm in a better position to find better contractors to do additional art. Okay, well, I've done most of the work myself, but I do have an additional artist, and then of course I've got 3 guys doing music and 1 does sound effects as well, and working with them's been great. We're at a point now where we all are on along the same vision, so I can pretty much just tell them I need something kind of like this, and then they'll do it, and it'll just be great and fit right in the game. In the beginning, there was a lot more back and forth, and just making sure the art direction was the way I wanted it to be and so forth. In the end, I've just got something I'm incredibly proud of, and right now, as I'm doing that, it seems like every single new mission that I implement is my favorite mission, and it's incredibly important. Having the ability to work on everything and have my hands in everything, it's one of the best advantages I have here, being an indie. Right, so the art style was mainly driven by the NES limitations. That's why the sprites are as small as they are and why the cars are the size that they are. Those were all designed to take into account the fact that if you have too many sprites on screen or in a row, then it flickers and so forth. And the black outlines and the really colorful nature of the game came from just the idea that it's a cartoony, comical game, and I didn't want it to be gritty or realistic like the current GTA games are. The main thing the reason why this game took so long, one of the main reasons, was just that I had built everything from scratch. And so that's a lot of work, and in the future I wouldn't do that. I would, because I built everything from the assemblers to the script compile, like you name it, I've done it all. The most tricky part is just the fact that I'm doing an open world game, and those really are the most complicated games you can do. The reason being that it's a whole bunch of different systems all working together, from the enemy AI to the collision to cars driving down the street, pedestrians walking around, and all of these systems interact with each other, and changing one can have a ripple effect on the others. And so having just dozens and dozens of systems all running at once, changing them and making sure that the rest of the game still works is quite a balancing act. So the craziest thing to finishing this game was the shock of just how much time business consumes, and dealing with contracts, game pitches, the spreadsheets, PR, and around PAX, I actually spent 2 months barely touching the game, and it was just all business and PR. And even since then, it's been as bad as spending 70% of my time on everything but finishing the game. That's something that people definitely need to be aware of when they're going indie. So I'm still finishing Retro City Rampage. It's mainly just content and missions that I'm putting into the final game, and then there are going to be a few other extra bonuses which have been late additions but will make the game a heck of a lot better. And one of those things being a character creator, so people are going to be able to create their own character to play in the game, and they're going to be able to share that with their friends. So I'm quite excited about that, although it leads to the game will take a little bit longer to come out.